Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Beal Early Childhood Center Building Committee for Tuesday, December 10th, 2019. First item of business is to review the minutes of November 12th, 2019. Any comments or questions? Not hearing or seeing any hands, is there a motion? Motion to accept. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to accept. All those in favor shall signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Item 3 is to review and act on the following bill schedules and warrants. Vendor expense item, Fontaine Brothers, Inc., requisition number 10 for $2,674,711. LPAA, Inc., I take that Lamro Pagano Associates, for invoice 1717-1911 for $79,685. Any questions or comments?
I have one thing.
Yes.
I forwarded on the 5th or the 15th of November to Val and Kim a gatehouse invoice for the advertising that we did for the trade contractor request for proposals. I was wondering if we could get this approved at this, even though it's not on here at this meeting. It's for.
Of course we can. Would you walk it to the clerk?
Gotcha. Okay.
Val, what's it say?
It's very expensive.
5170.
Very good. Is the committee comfortable receiving that this evening and taking action? It appears that we are. All those in favor shall signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, all 3 items are approved.
Thank you.
Item 4, we'll hear reports, review, and act on the following matters. A, report from the owner's project manager regarding project financials.
All right, I will start with just the budget summary, and then Walter can go into where we are on the amendment and all that, okay? So again, this is the same form that we've been going over for months. LPA is the same number of amendments to 7 with a contract value of 7.3. PMA's contract value remains the same as last month, 2.79, 2.77 with 3 amendments. We have added amendment number 3, which we just got Kevin to sign, which is the trade contractors for that we just put under contract. And so Fontaine's current contract with the town of Shrewsbury is $45,994,431. And then Walter will go into more percentages of where we are with buy and blah, blah, blah. So the total value of the contracts is there is $56 million. Invoices and costs through, that shouldn't say October, it should say November. I apologize. Is the 14.3, that's the balance to finish, which equals the 92.8, which is our current PFA budget. Encumbereds are there, that's all of the invoices, all of the contracts, everything. And then at the bottom are the pro-pay submitted to date. So after this meeting, we'll get the warrant for these bills, and we'll put the pro-pay in December will include last month's and this month's. We just couldn't get it together to get it in November in time, so we'll put them all together and we'll have one big pro-pay in November that will include October and November invoices. So I don't know if that.
And may I ask you a question? How has the experience been on the question of allowable and disallowable expenses?
So far, so good. They haven't really pulled out anything that we didn't know was going to be not allowed. So
Thank you.
there's been no ineligibles that have surprised us.
Great. Questions, comments? Anyone? No? Okay, thank you very much. Walter?
I can do a little bit of this now, but we'll also talk about Amendment 3. But that 45.994 for inclusive of Amendment 3 brings us to roughly 62% bought out for the project. That's as compared to the construction budget at schematic of $74,111,000. I'll kind of let Dave Jr. but Frank talk about where they're at with the GMP but we haven't finalized anything. They're kind of running with it right now before bringing in LPA and PMA to do final scope reviews and sit down and review hard numbers. But I do know that from what they've told me, we are trending on or under budget at this point in time for the GMP. And then probably for the next month and a half, PMA, LPA, and Fontaine will be working together to finalize that GMP with hopes of bringing that to you guys for the January meeting.
Anything else?
Nope,
Questions,
I'll talk to
comments?
Amendment 3
from the
after.
owner's project manager? No? Okay, in that case, we'll move to item 4B, which is report from the architect.
Good evening. As you know, we've been getting flyovers from the Public Buildings Department, Keith Baldinger's division, and we've been sharing with those when we're getting them. This one you're about to see is from 2 days ago, or 3 days ago now. But what I wanted to do was give you kind of a reminder of what the site looks like. So we realigned Lake Street in its current position by lowering the road, correcting minor horizontal alignments. We have that large beech tree up in that green area in the upper right, the parking lot area, then the building footprint, and then the play fields, the paved play on the south. So you're going to really be able to start to see this ring road and the major roads coming around, and you're going to see what is the major retaining wall that supports the upper and lower portions. And that retaining wall kind of cuts through the building in this graphic north to south. And that's the big change between the two floors. It's like a 15-foot change in grade between the floors. And I kind of want to explain this a little bit so as you're going through the video you can understand it a little bit more. So you're seeing that big retaining wall here. We're on the back side of it. They haven't backfilled against it yet. But this is going up Lake Street as it's realigned in its current position. This is the binder course. The binder course will stay throughout the duration of the project, and then they'll do the final paving course as they're leaving the site. So you have a nice, clean, striped, lined road. The bank that you're seeing on the right-hand side is the slope pitch that will be in the final grading. On the left-hand side, some of it still needs to be built out, but it kind of gives you a sense it's really kind of a shallow slope. It's not going to feel nearly as tight as it ever did originally. And if anything, you'll probably have to just keep the sledders off of the hill more than anything. Here's coming up looking kind of southwest. There's a large retaining wall, and as you can see there's some big stockpiles of soil that will come in as the structural fill behind that wall. Where that crane is sitting is where the finished floor of the main level will be, and where you're starting to see the footprints of the foundations on the right hand side and the other side of the wall. That's a little bit below the finish elevation of the lower level. So the roadway is what kind of navigates that way down, which is started to show up in the bottom of the screen. There's a large beech tree. You can finally really see just how large that canopy is there on the left-hand side. The parking lot's going to be where that big kind of snow pile is and some of the other tracks you see in there. And then there's that ring road you really start to see. And then there's the, retaining wall there. So then what we're looking at in the beginning of this is the C wing, where the kindergarten will be on the upper level and they'll have direct access out to their playground area, which would be those piles in the lower left. Another thing where the crane is also where the gymnasium's going to be, to kind of start positioning you a little bit. So that's where the gymnasium is. Where that retaining wall is, that's the back side of the gymnasium. And then when you're looking on the other side of the retaining wall that forms that corner there, that is the back side of the stage of the cafeteria. So that whole portion of the retaining wall kind of going up towards where those two small excavators were, that is where the cafeteria is. So that corner in the bottom right, that's kind of going to be the corner of the cafeteria. So this is the B wing, the main kind of academic wings, 2 stories, what you're starting to see here. You can see the column footprints running down the middle of the buildings there, kind of defining the corridors. That's the exterior courtyard you're starting to see right in the middle of the screen now. Going over the C wing again now, kindergarten on the upper level, some additional classrooms on the lower level. As you can see, they're starting to finish out that major retaining wall running through the building. Coming back over, where that black box is there is where the art rooms are going to be, and then just after that kind of black footing you're seeing this new space that has some bare ground. This is where the media center is. And that little pit there, that's the elevator we just flew by. Here, we're going over the C wing again. There's a corridor that runs along that main thing. The retaining wall, there's the art rooms again, media center, B wing, and then in that little corner is where the students will get picked up and dropped off by their parents. And the paved play area is going to be on the left-hand side there, where some of the other darker spots are. And here we are looking to the west again, out over Lake Quincy towards the Worcester Hills. So that's the gist of our update. Besides that, we've compiled what we call a conform set of documents, and they've been distributed to Fontaine and to the town. Really what that is any revisions that have been made during the bidding period. We've captured those in the drawings, we clouded them so that there's no confusion. When they get the sets that they're working with in the field, they have all the revisions to date noted on them. And then, as other revisions have needed, field conditions adjust, we issue those sketches separately, but at least at this point in time, we've locked in all the revisions we've made. So it's really a good technique we've developed over the years, and it serves everyone well, so.
You guys feel as though you have what you need to have a successful project?
Yes.
Great. Anything else, Sean?
No.
Questions? No? Okay, item C, report from the construction manager and schedule update and construction progress.
Sure. So I'll just hit some of the milestones. Lake Street should be open before Christmas. The waterproofer is going to start on that large retaining wall this week, actually. Foundations in the A wing, which were the area up on the upper side where the crane was, those will be completed for December. And our first load of steel will be out here on January 6th. And then slabs in March. And that's where we are. We're on track with the schedule. There's been no issues so far to date.
We passed out with everybody, this is a 2-page milestone schedule.
yeah.
This is Fontaine's, it's just an excerpt of their full update number 2, which is currently back for them to revise slightly, but nothing that required revision affects the critical path. So that's why we included the 2-page critical path for this meeting.
Good. When do you see the top off of the steel?
In March, end of March.
Great.
13 months.
March 27th. My mother's birthday, so why not? Well, we won't hold you to that.
We'll try.
Anything else?
No, I'm very happy.
What's keeping you up at night?
Everything.
Okay.
Junior.
Anything?
So Walter alluded to budget-wise, what we have now in terms of the most recently executed amendment is the trade contractors. Those are the filed sub-bid trades. Scope reviews with all those trades have already been completed with the whole team. It's a process that's not necessarily required by 149A, but that we always feel is good diligence to go through and meet with all those trades. So now, as Frank and Walter had said, we're going through the rest of the non-trade items, scope of work, drywall, metal panels, those big things, and working towards completing the rest of the GMP, and we are trending where we'd like to be within or perhaps under the budget.
Great. Any questions? Comments? No. So early on, we were concerned about tariffs and impact on pricing. I think we seem to have skirted that if the steel is in place. What
So
other
the
things?
steel, if there was anything, the tariffs, we do feel, unlikely at this point to affect the structural steel. It would actually be so it would be between that January date and March, April, if we can get past there and all the steel's over the border.
Okay.
We'll be over that hump.
Okay. Coming from Canada then?
Yep.
Anything else that is worrisome relative to supply?
We were pretty happy with where the trade bids came in labor-wise. There's a lot of projects that are bidding kind of at or around this same schedule and completion for fall '21. But we felt good with that. The tariff stuff could still be, we did, another project that we're doing, there were some electrical components, subcomponents of which are made overseas that we've seen a little bit on. But in the grand scheme of this size and scale of a project and this type of construction, nothing that's,
Okay.
raising an eyebrow above normal.
Great.
We had a
No,
lot of
I'm sorry.
competitive, we had a lot of competitive trade bids, a lot of them, a few of them within thousands of dollars of each other on hundreds of thousands of dollars of scope, so.
One of them was $7,000.
Yeah.
Is all that separated the two. Yeah.
So, it was definitely a competitive bid market.
Kevin?
Just curious on the site and soil conditions out there, early freeze and then a lot of rain, is it everything holding up?
It's holding up, it's muddy. I'd be lying to you if I said it's a muddy site. The nature of the soil is loose, so, but the site contractor we have is doing his due diligence to make sure that it's contained.
We have geotechnical engineers on site, LGCI, a sub to LPA out on site, reminding and really just checking the work because T&M, the subcontractor, has done so well. But they are cleaning out the water, pumping out the water, digging out the bad soil, putting in stone to reinforce, keeping it dry before any pours. It's being inspected by the third-party testing agency for soil compaction. The concrete's being tested for freeze-thaw issues. We haven't had any pours that have been under 20 degrees, so the concrete's been able to heat itself. They've been blanketing. Haven't had any issues with the concrete contractor, so no issues with weather or.
So we haven't had any winter weather condition concerns, or?
No, another thing, as you can see, the foundation and that building retaining wall and stuff like that are pretty well along at this stage. And, big picture scheduling wise, we bought the site very early, the concrete and steel early, and a lot of that was, for the weather. Right, because in that building footprint, there was a lot of material that had to be moved, compacted, recompacted, and you honestly couldn't do what we did in terms of material reuse on site during this weather, so.
Would have lost a lot more.
One more question.
Yes.
With the opening of the road likely to occur before we meet again as a committee, has everything that's kind of needed to be jockeyed from one side of the road, soil-wise, is it already on the proper side for the most part? So
Yes.
safe as conditions as possible before we open?
Yes.
That soil is at its naturally designed 3-to-1 slope on the old barn site and more than that on the school site.
All right, Judy, any other questions, comments? Not seeing any, thank you very much. Item 5 is to review and vote to approve contract amendment number 3, early bid package number 3, between the town of Shrewsbury and Fontaine Brothers Trade Contracts. Mr. Manager?
So this is, as you described, an amendment in the amount of $24,471,053. It's been thoroughly gone over by the team in the front of the room tonight, so I would just ask for committee authorization to execute that agreement.
Great, questions, comments, anything further? Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve contract amendment number 3. All those in favor shall signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We're unanimous, thank you. Item 6, correspondence, is an email dated November 8th, 2019, from Katie Crockett, LPA, to Brian Moss of 16 Ruth Ann Circle regarding wireless technology response. And Val, I didn't print on both sides, so what follows item 6?
Set date for next meeting adjourned.
Oh, very good. So our next meeting would simply be the second Tuesday of January, which is the 14th, as I recall. And if you need something before then, just coordinate with the manager's office, but it doesn't sound like we'll need one. And then Val, I think at our last meeting, you sent out that date stretching into, well into 2020, as I recall.
I believe it.
Take credit for it anyway,
Yes,
Val,
sir.
because you did it.
Yes, they're on there.
All right. If there's nothing more to come before the committee this evening, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Motion been made and seconded. All those in favor of adjourning shall signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're unanimous. Thank you all very much, and Merry Christmas to all of you.
Merry Christmas to
Merry
you too.
Christmas.